Yeah. So it's interesting that you started with pro wrestling because I had an interesting question about that. So obviously WWE has just started to move onto Netflix. Do you think that there's a possibility that the UFC and the WWE will eventually share that platform?
Oh yeah, there's a strong possibility. I mean, this is going to the biggest story for me in 2025 to watch as far as like the business of MMA is what happens to the UFC's TV contract here in the United States, because their deal with ESPN Plus is up at the end of this year, and they're going to make a boatload. I mean, it's going to be the biggest deal in UFC history. It's going to be worth billions of dollars, and obviously right now they're exclusive to ESPN Plus, but and ESPN in general, right, with some of the fight nights and the prelims and whatnot. But the big question is, are they going to, for the first time in their history, split the TV deal, as you see with the NFL, right? The NFL is on NBC, it's on CBS, it's on ABC, it's on Netflix. NBA just did a big deal, right? Amazon, NBC, ESPN, they left Turner. My prediction is the UFC is going to stay with ESPN in some capacity. I think ESPN really wants to keep them on their pay-per-view platform, the ESPN Plus pay-per-view platform. But I would be very, very surprised if they don't split up the deal. And Netflix has to be one of the suitors. WWE's on Netflix. Obviously, both entities are owned by TKO, so they have that strong relationship. I predict it will be ESPN and someone else, and maybe even a third. But I would be very surprised if it just stays on one place. So Netflix a player, obviously Amazon a player, Turner, WBD, which is TNT and TBS, they could be a player as well. Apple, maybe the MLS thing hasn't really worked out great for them, so I don't know how much they're going to want to go in. But so I would say ESPN. The three that I'm looking at the most are probably ESPN, Netflix, and Amazon. I think those are going to be the big players.
If that does work out and they do kind of split the broadcasting rights, how do you see that working out for the future of the sport?
So right now there's 43 events a year. There's 13 pay-per-views, and obviously there's the fight nights, but then even on the pay-per-views, right, like the prelims and stuff will be on the network. I think that I personally don't think it will be smart to expand to more than 43 events. I think sometimes they're in danger of watering down the product. I don't, obviously there's some cards that you can skip if you're a casual fan, right? They're just not the best. My dream for 2026 and beyond is that they stop doing events at the Apex. I'll just be honest. I find those events to be quite soulless and not very fun. I love when there's a crowd. I love when the fighters can interact with crowds. You see moments like Moicano on the microphone in Paris, like Brian Battle, like those moments can't happen at the Apex, and those moments build stars. So I would love that, and I think the fighters deserve that. I think when you make it to the major leagues of mixed martial arts, you deserve to fight in front of a sold-out arena. So I would like to see them stay with 43 events, and I could see a scenario where it's like, okay, the 13 pay-per-views are on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. Maybe there's 15 fight nights on Netflix. Maybe there's 10 on Amazon, maybe there's 15 on Netflix and 10 on Plus, not pay-per-view, just like the fight nights on pay-per-view. Oh, sorry, the fight nights on Plus, like next week's show, etc. So the one that I feel quite confident about is I would be shocked if ESPN lets them leave the pay-per-view deal. And what I mean by the pay-per-view deal is that right now, as you know, in America, it's exclusive to ESPN Plus pay-per-view, and that has been a tremendous success for ESPN. If they leave that, ESPN Plus pay-per-view becomes pretty much obsolete, because ESPN has a deal with Top Rank that expires in August, and all signs seem to be that Top Rank isn't going to re-sign. And that's ESPN's decision. And so, like, how else are you getting that revenue? There's no other sport that uses the pay-per-view model. And the UFC is really like the last one left that does it consistently well. So I could see it being there, and then they kind of break up the other ones with the other platforms.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about it going to Netflix after seeing the numbers that Jake Paul and Mike Tyson did, and seeing how many more stars could be built on a platform like that. There's just way more eyes, and it's way more visible, because I'm pretty sure that Netflix is probably the most bought subscription in the United States, and everyone has
in the world.
It. Yeah,
in the world,
exactly.
270 million subscribers.
Yes.
Last time I checked, it's huge. I mean, even now, like you go on Netflix and you see like you see Cody Rhodes' face, you see WWE guys, and that is invaluable, right? Because if you're a casual fan, you're like, oh, what is this? Let me check this out. The replay is up right away. To have that in front of so many eyeballs is huge. But I also think the ESPN partnership has been incredible for the UFC, because remember when it was on FS1 and prior to that Spike, it was kind of like living in a bubble. But now you're on ESPN, you're watching UNC Duke, and you'll see it on the ticker. You go to .com, you see it there. When ESPN is in business with a sports entity, they put so much more resources into it. When they're not, like, look at hockey. When hockey left ESPN and went to NBC, they hardly covered it. Now it's back on ESPN, and you're seeing commercials, you're seeing coverage on SportsCenter, et cetera, et cetera. So they make it a part of the conversation, and that's invaluable as well. So I think it would be a mistake if they left ESPN altogether.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, just because of how much success they've had, both ESPN and the UFC. They've mutually benefited a ton. If you guys like that clip, check out the whole podcast here and make sure to hit that subscribe button.